The massive crystalline dome of the Galactic Council Station gleamed against the backdrop of the Andromeda Nebula, its pristine surface reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. For 3 millennia, representatives from 47 civilized species had gathered here in peace, their sleek vessels docking with the grace of dancers performing an ancient ballet. Today, however, something was different. Commander Zix Thara of the Veltharian Commonwealth pressed her 6-fingered hand against the observation deck's transparent aluminum, watching in horror as the human fleet approached. The ships were unlike anything she had ever seen, massive, angular behemoths that seemed to have been forged in the heart of a dying star. But it wasn't their brutish design that made her scales ripple with unease. It was the color. Every single human vessel was painted in streaks of deep crimson, as if they had been dipped in blood and left to dry under an alien sun. "By the 7 moons," whispered Ambassador Keeltar, his telepathic tendrils quivering with anxiety. "What manner of species announces itself with such violence?" The human fleet consisted of 12 ships, each one bearing scars that told stories of countless battles. Burn marks scarred their hulls like war paint, and strange symbols were etched into their armor plating. The lead vessel, a monstrous dreadnought nearly twice the size of any council ship, bore the name Terran Vengeance in letters that seemed to pulse with their own malevolent light. As the ships entered the station's docking bay, a hush fell over the assembled delegates. The crystalline hierarchs dimmed their luminescence in what their species considered a gesture of profound concern. The aquatic depth swimmers retreated deeper into their environmental suits, and even the warrior caste Bractorians, who had never backed down from a fight in their species' recorded history, took involuntary steps backward. The airlock hissed open with a sound like a dying breath, and the humans emerged. They walked in formation, their movements precise and calculated. Each wore dark uniforms that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and their faces were hidden behind masks that bore the same crimson stains as their ships. The leader, a tall figure with shoulders broad enough to carry the weight of worlds, removed his helmet to reveal a weathered face marked by scars and eyes that held the depth of ancient oceans. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," she announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded respect across the void. "We come as representatives of humanity, seeking membership in your Galactic Council." The silence that followed was deafening. It was finally broken by High Arbiter Velnaran, the Council's most senior member, whose species had achieved interstellar travel when humans were still discovering fire. "Admiral Chen," the Arbiter's voice resonated through the chamber, "we must ask. The appearance of your vessels is most concerning. The Council has always stood for peace and diplomatic resolution. Your ships appear to be instruments of war, stained with what we can only assume to be blood," Admiral Chen finished, her expression unchanging. "Yes, they are stained with blood. The blood of pirates who preyed upon innocent traders. The blood of slavers who harvested sentient beings like crops. The blood of tyrants who crushed entire civilizations under their heel." She gestured to her fleet, visible through the massive viewing ports. "Each stain represents a battle, fought not for conquest, but for justice. Each scar tells the story of a people we defended, a wrong we righted, a evil we destroyed." The human delegation spread out slightly, and for the first time, the council members noticed that they weren't all soldiers. Among them stood scientists, diplomats, artists, and philosophers. But each bore the same determined expression, the same willingness to fight for what they believed was right. "You see," Admiral Chen continued, "humanity learned long ago that peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of justice. We have spent the last century patrolling the outer rim of your territories, places where your laws hold little sway and predators roam free. We have been the shield between civilization and chaos." She paused, letting her words sink in. These stains on our ships are not marks of aggression. They are badges of honor. They represent our commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves, regardless of species, regardless of profit, regardless of convenience. Ambassador Keltar's telepathic tendrils began to glow with understanding. Through his psychic abilities, he could sense the truth in the Admiral's words, feel the genuine conviction that drove these strange beings from a distant blue world. But surely, interjected Councillor Thrixner of the Merchant Guild, there are diplomatic solutions to such problems. Violence should always be a last resort. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. We tried diplomacy first, Councillor. We sent negotiators, offered trade agreements, proposed peaceful resolutions. Do you know what the Keith Morey Syndicate did to our first diplomatic envoy? They returned her to us in pieces, along with a message that humans were soft and would make excellent slaves. The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence, one filled with growing respect rather than fear. That was when we learned that sometimes, Counselor, evil only understands one language. And we became fluent in it. High Arbiter Velnaran stood slowly, his ancient form casting long shadows across the chamber floor. Admiral Chen, your methods are unorthodox, but your results speak for themselves. Our outer territories have reported a 70% decrease in piracy and illegal trafficking in the past year alone. He paused, looking out at the blood-stained fleet. Perhaps the Council has been too comfortable in our peaceful cause, too willing to ignore the suffering at our borders because it didn't directly affect us. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the Galactic Council, not despite their violent appearance, but because of what it represented: a species willing to fight for others, to bear the moral burden of necessary violence so that peace could flourish elsewhere. As the ceremony concluded and the human ships took their place among the Council fleet, their crimson stains caught the nebula's light like drops of liquid fire. They were no longer marks of violence, but symbols of sacrifice, reminders that sometimes the price of peace is paid in blood, and some species are willing to pay it so others don't have to. The galaxy had found its guardians.